And because of that, our approach is very low cost. How's our information used? Come on, why isn't it? It's not going on to the next slide. Why is that so? I'm not sure why it's not going on to the next slide, but it's not. I'll keep going.
I really don't.
No,
Are you doing it? Are you doing it on PowerPoint or on the screen?
No, I'm doing it on my MacBook Air. So it should. I mean, it always works. So I don't know why it's not working.
Maybe you can get off the presentation mode and be on the working mode, and then maybe you can see.
Yeah, it's on the working mode. Oh, here we go.
It's doing okay.
How do we do our work? The most important component in our projects is a local program partner. They'll be established and understand ways to engage with their community and therefore empower them to act. Our primary method of delivering information is through the creation of a field guide. And this is the Nepalese food guide on the screen. Each food guide contains information on approximately 40 edible plants from all the major food groups, all high in nutrients. We focus on plants that require minimal inputs, that is minimal water, fertilizer and chemicals. And with that in mind, we seek to avoid commercially grown crops unless they're also significant foods grown for local household consumption. The field guide contains information on sustainable methods for growing plants, why soil is so important and how to look after and improve it. The guide can be translated and is often translated into local language, which helps make the information accessible to more people. Using the field guide as a foundation, other primarily pictorial publications can be created. Feedback from our program partners informs us that recipients of these publications absolutely love them. How information is used, we provide it depends on our program partner. They have the local knowledge, networks, and resources. For any program to succeed, one thing is absolutely key. Our program partners must invest in it. This does not necessarily mean financially, but for success, they must have embraced it, believe in it, and fully committed to making it happen. This ensures dignity and empowerment. One way that's proving very successful is through the creation of school gardens, which helps reduce malnutrition whilst educating the next generation on sustainable, nutritious food production. I'm going to share with you now some case studies. A pilot program in Vietnam that commenced in 2012 with our program partner AOG has been so well received, it's expanded from 2 trial gardens to now encompass 2 provinces and 14 schools. And this year we're adding 23 more schools to that, which directly impacts over 3,500 children and around 400 adults. Some of the results include the children at the school enjoy the benefits of the plants they've grown as they're provided with a nutritious lunch each day. The families are now duplicating the school gardens at home. The schools are saving money each month for not having to buy food, which means this money can be redirected to other school necessities. There's also been a significant increase in enrolments as people feel more confident of the school's ability to provide nutritionally for their children, which in turn frees up the parents to increase their household income as they have more time to work. But the most important one is malnutrition has significantly reduced. Our latest results for a 12-month period show a reduction in malnutrition of between 40% and 100% across all schools. A great outcome. Not only does this show impact and results, but it shows that we're not a quick fix. Sustainable change always takes time. And it's amazing what the pictorial books have done. A lot of the grandparents who are still at home have said to their kids, "I remember that. That was beautiful plant. You know, that's not something we've eaten for a long while." And so they're starting to get excited about putting their gardens in again. The next one's a program in the Philippines. The Miravar Foundation in the Philippines was over 10 years ago started with the main objectives: we take people out of poverty permanently. We commenced communications with the Miravar Foundation in 2013. And in 2018, the Philippine president decreed that every community must establish a community garden for the same reasons as we're championing, and ask for our assistance. We had a field guide, potentially important food plants of the Philippines, which they reviewed and we updated. They then requested 4 picture guides, and we set about trying to raise the 10,000 to create these. The Rotary Club of Hobart and district designated funds from our district joined together and donated the $10,000, which enabled us to create the picture guides and send them over. The Miravar Foundation provides the seeds and other planting materials in accordance with our publications. The information in each publication is discussed once a month at the family development centres. They've said, and I quote, "The learning tools that you provided are very informative and beneficial to the members of our community. With these tools, it will be easier for us as grassroots workers to design programs that will help us combat malnutrition and provide our people with ideas on how to sustain our food supply." The photos here show the garden that was established in accordance with our FPS publications. As of this time, when those pictures were taken, there were 23 plants varieties, 12 families that were benefiting from this garden, and 57 family members. Unfortunately, at the end of 2019, there's a tornado that went through and wiped out all of the gardens and all of the infrastructure, and all that was left was a part school building. The Miravar Foundation contacted me by email and said they were really sorry, but they couldn't continue this garden project because the little money they had needed to rebuild houses and communities. I contacted past director Rafi in the Philippines and told him in an email. He emailed me straight back and said, "Just send me the bank account. Our clubs will pay for the Miravar Foundation and also send people to help them rebuild." That's what Rotary can do quickly. Then we had a meeting here in Tasmania. We had some new refugees came in to Tasmania, and a few of us had gone to a meet and greet with these families in a home. And one of our members brought a big box of vegetables. And a lady came over to me and said, "What are these? What do we do with these? We don't know what these vegetables are." So imagine if you're an immigrant to a country which, in contrast to all that you're familiar with, you're keen to be a good provider for your family, and the idea of growing fresh fruit and vegetables is part of that. But where do you start? Fresh Food for Families is a workshop that was developed following this meeting to support migrants to learn how to grow, nurture and harvest and prepare nutritious fresh food in this climate, where both plants and climate are very new to them. Whilst this workshop was developed for immigrants, its usefulness goes far beyond supporting newly arrived migrants. The workshop can be used in schools, community centres, men's sheds, anywhere with any group that wants to help others learn how to grow and eat nutritious foods. I'm sure there are groups of people in your areas that need to have fresh food daily and don't have now. The workshop's divided into 4 smaller sessions, and on the day, participants attend each of these. And this is the Nepalese group that was the first group that we started the workshop with. They cover the basics of growing fresh food with the assumption that the participants are mostly inexperienced. Lunch is provided, as are all of the materials: garden gloves for adults and children, hand tools, fertiliser samples, and information sheets. Participants take home all of these, as well as the pots planted during the day. We've seen the participants from the workshop become much more involved in the community and benefit from growing their own fresh produce. We also decided from that first meeting that we needed to prepare a manual, which is now on our website, that can be downloaded, which can walk you through, anybody can walk through the easy to follow set of instructions on how to conduct a fresh food for families event. We've now conducted it with the Nepalese, the Ethiopian, the Thai. We've conducted in a school where there are 20 different nationalities that came to the workshop. We've conducted in a men's shed and a community group. And there are many going on around the world using this manual that's on the net, and you'd be free to download that. And then, of course, COVID hit us all. COVID-19 and now 20 and 21 and 22 has affected all of us in some way, and for some, the impact will be long-lasting and dire. The World Food Programme has estimated the number of people facing acute food insecurity will increase by 130 million in 2021, and actually this year has increased by much more than that. I can't imagine what it must be like to worry about how I'm going to feed myself and my family. And I can't imagine what it must be like to hear children crying from hunger and exhaustion. The thought is despair. Quite possibly there are people in your community who are wondering how they're going to feed themselves and their families. By growing some of their own food, it will give people something positive to engage in, and importantly, nutritious food. For those who've lost employment, this helps to give them something immediately to focus on, and in very little time, they could be benefiting from their effort. What's more, gardening is proven to be good for our mental health, which is understandably a huge issue at the moment. We can provide a soft leaflet for you to print and distribute, and there's many online that you can see. This leaflet provides information on 15 edible plants, 3 from each major food groups, which are known to grow in your area and are high in the most beneficial nutrients. Each plant will have a common name, a scientific name, key points regarding use, key points regarding cultivation, and information on the nutrients and why they're important, and information on how to start a garden. The leaflet would then allow anybody to start their own garden, whether it be a pot or in an apartment or turning over a bit of their lawn. For very little effort, it can have much positive impact on themselves and their community. We've created many of these for around the world, and the positive feedback has been incredibly. When I spoke at a changeover dinner of Rotary clubs in the north of India last year. 400 people attended the presentation. It was bizarre for me. People went in and out all the time, but the district governor then decreed that all clubs had to have started a community garden in their district for the year. I know a lot of them have, and we haven't received full feedback yet, but it certainly was mind-blowing to see the kinds of things that were happening in India once the gardens were created. So how can you help? We need funding, sponsors to incorporate into existing club projects and committee members. Each publication costs money, as does editing, translation and printing. We continually have requests for publications that we cannot meet due to lack of funding. And so we've got to go out and beg Rotary clubs to support us. To meet these needs, we need financial support, donations and sponsors. We've now suggested that if every country, every club in the world paid $100 towards food plant solutions every year, we'd be in seventh heaven and could manage to do all the things that were asked of us. Who can you introduce us to that might like to sponsor us or sponsor a project? Perhaps your club would like to sponsor a publication or donate towards one. What projects do you know that would benefit from having a food plant solutions component to them? We need introductions to the project. More people who are aware of what we do, the more people we can positively impact. You might be building a hospital, a school, a dentist area in a community. Why not add a garden to it? If you're putting in a water well in another country, what about adding a garden to it? All of those opportunities exist and we can help with those things. We're looking for people with specific skills, people who are experienced in Microsoft Publisher, who have a keen eye to detail, people who can present a PowerPoint presentation about us to their clubs. Will provide the PowerPoint presentation and the documents that go with it. People with marketing experience, people who manage social media, people with experience in crowdfunding. We need more committee members like yourselves. It'd be wonderful to have a committee member from Portugal to be able to be our representative there to talk to people about this project. It doesn't take a lot of time and you can do as little or as much as you'd like. So I'd like to finish with a quote from Buzz Aldrin. If we can conquer space, surely we can conquer childhood hunger. Well, we know we can. We've seen the outcomes of the projects we've got at the moment, and there are many more waiting for us. Thank you very much. Happy
Thank
to
you,
answer.
Una. This was a wonderful and inspiring presentation, and I'm sure little by little, as we talked before, this will grow up. And I would like to tell you that you made a challenge here. How can we help? I'm going to give you 3 of the 4 things that you thought we could do. So our club is going to give you $100 as you asked for this year at least.
Fantastic.
We are going to try to incorporate the project in existing club projects. Today I had the pleasure to talk with Pedro Carreto from a club Satellite Lusofonia, and we are going to try to implement your project in Luanda. Pedro, after this maybe you can talk a little bit. And you need committee members. I'm sure other Rotarians will offer also, but I offer myself to help you in everything you want.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very, very much. That's exciting. Thank you.
Pedro, if you want, you can just say a few words about the project in Luanda. Do you want to say something?
Hi, hello. Boa noite a todos, boa noite companheiros, como estão? Bem dispostos? É um gosto estar aqui. Bom, tenho que dizer que aqui com o companheiro presidente Ricardo, apanhou-me aqui um bocadinho de surpresa. Eu estava aqui como como ouvinte, não propriamente como participante. Mas, muito bem. Hello, Una. Thank you for your wonderful presentation and for all this project that you have been managing all over the world. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, can.
We can, yeah, we can.
Thank you. So we have a partnership with our friends of the Rotary Club of Rwanda, and last December we start a cooperation because they have a center there for young girls, and they have some needs. And I think that knowing a little bit more about this project, it can be interesting because they of course struggle with lots of difficulties, and I think that this idea of building their own gardens and building their own or thinking in their own way of providing for themselves, it will be perfect. So I'm going to talk with our partner there. It's Pep, and along with Ricardo, we will see how we can manage and take some of your ideas and some of this project over there. Thank you for it.
Wonderful. If you look on our website,
Yeah.
which is www.foodplantsolutions.org, you will find some documents already prepared for Rwanda.
Perfect.
Which you could download for free. We're also working with a group in Rwanda called, just hang on while I find their piece of paper. It's actually a very interesting project because the guy who runs this project in Rwanda is called John Sibamona. And he runs...
Una, let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Pedro was talking about Luanda in Angola.
Yeah,
Oh, Luanda.
Luanda.
Yeah, sorry.
For my
Yes.
bad English. It's been
No,
a while since...
Sorry.
But
I didn't
we can translate to Portuguese.
Yeah.
We can translate to Portuguese, and maybe it can be used in all Lusophonic, I don't know what's in
that's
English,
great.
countries.
That's brilliant. Yep, that'd be terrific. Good. Well, we can move on from there and let's continue to talk about it. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Una. Thank you, Ricardo. Obrigado, Ricardo.
Welcome.
Falaremos depois então.
Very good. I'd like to hear some words about Sérgio Almeida, from past governor Sérgio Almeida. It's always a pleasure to hear your opinions about.
Obrigado, companheiro Ricardo. Boa noite a todos, uma vez mais, e parabéns ao Rotary Club de Ourivoga International, que fez mais uma excelente talk, nomeadamente trazendo cá um projeto muito relevante. Então eu vou passar para o inglês para poder interagir um bocadinho com a Una e também para pedir a sua opinião. So Una, this is a project that for us Rotarians, as what we say can effectively cause everlasting changes, because it's not only about giving the food, it's also to help children, women, populations to understand, and that also generates this sustainability, and it's very connected to our purpose as Rotarians. My question, Una, is in this troubled times we have right now after all this pandemic, and what are the big challenges that you are facing now with your projects to take this to the ground and to generate this sustainability? Thank you.
I think the biggest problem that we have is that Rotary clubs still think that a project has to be finished in 12 months. And I've already spoken to Ricardo about that. And of course, anybody who's built a garden knows that you're not going to get full production in 12 months. Also, anybody who's tried to work with Rotary International to get global grants or district designated grants going, that takes time too. So that's the biggest problem from a Rotary sense. But there's also the problem of community expectations. There's a lot of communities in the world that are very used now to having food drops from United Nations. The plane comes in once a month, drops the food, and then comes back next month. And this struck me very heavily this year when we were working with a group of people who had a school and a nursery in Uganda, and they had land to put a garden in, and they wanted to put a garden. They'd got all the documents, they'd started the education process with kids at school, and then they called the community together and said, look, this is what we want to do, so that instead of you getting food drops, which only last 3 weeks out of 4, you'll be able to feed yourselves. And of course, the community leaders were all men who came to the meeting, and the men went off to have a talk about this project, and they came back and said, no, we're not going to do it. And this group of people looked at them and said, but why? And the reason is that, quoting the man, the leader, he said, well, you see, we get food drops, and we've got food drops for years now. They last 3 weeks, that's right, but it doesn't hurt our wife and children to go without food for a week because it's good for them, makes them strong. Of course, the men were still eating. And, you know, it's really hard to change the perception of people who've been in that area for so long. The men have started to become lazy. The women are trying really hard to bear the children and bring the children up in the best way possible. So what we did is we said to this group, look, why don't you leave it for a little while? Just talk to the parents when they come to the school. This year, and so that was 3 years ago, this year, we had a group of women who've come to this guy and said, we want to start the garden. We're sick of this. We're sick of our kids going without food for a week every month. We're going to start the garden. So it's a long-term project, which Rotary and Rotarians find difficult, although we've done polio for years and years and years. It's still not got through to clubs that, in fact, it really can make a difference, and a long-standing difference. That group in Vietnam that I talked about, they were the poorest of the poor. One of the teachers told me that she had 12 children at the beginning of her first year, which is now 8-9 years ago. And at the end of the first year, she only had 3 left in the class. The rest had passed away or were too sick to come to school. And now she's got 100% of kids who come to school every day and who are well. So it does work. We've just got to somehow sell that message to all the people who can make a difference in their communities. We have the same problems in our community, that are groups of poor people who need to be encouraged to start that little bit, to have their first garden. I've suggested to a Rotary Club I talked to a couple of weeks ago that they provide garden pots for people to grow veggies in, and let them see how it is that you can in fact feed your whole family on it. So it is a slow process, but we'll get there with all your help.
I'm sure, because Rotarians are resilient, and
yeah,
we focus in these issues. Just another question, Ricardo, and
yes.
I finish immediately, but you know, we are talking about these countries that really facing a lot of difficulties and a lot of problems. But when we see the so-called modern world, you know, when I see my son with 10 years, when I check the food in the schools and organizations and around, everything, sometimes even what we parents give to them, I also find this in another way, but this malnutrition.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
because we are also killing ourselves in with
Yeah.
the things we are eating right now. Do you have any kind of idea to develop some program to also these populations?
Well, that's why we decided on school gardens being the best way to do it, because a lot of the kids have never eaten what I call good food, fresh vegetables. Rather than going to McDonald's, it would be easier if people ate what they grew. But if they don't know that these things taste well, then they can't do that. And so we've found that with teachers being wedded to the idea and starting a school garden and then getting the kids to cook the vegetables and things that they've grown and they've been tasty, and then it goes back to the families and the kids say, come on, mum and dad, we can do this, we can have these things, and it starts that way. It is a slow way, but I think it's through education of this next generation. You're not going to change a teenager who really wants to go to McDonald's or all of the fast food places. But we can change children's attitude if we give them the opportunities and make it fun at school to grow their own little plot. I mean, one of the schools has given each of the kids a pot about a metre by half a metre, which the kids grow whatever they want to in the pot. The deal is that they've got to find a recipe and cook that recipe for their kids, the kids in their class from that pot. And that's made a difference. So it's all those little innovative things, but you know, nutrition, there's a lot of malnutrition about. We are an obese society. We are eating the wrong things. And it really is education. And for dentists, you know, as people eat the wrong things, their teeth get rotten and you do really well, but it's still not good, healthy food.
Yes. So, Una, I've been reading some things about the quality of the soil in the planet that is going very badly. And this is a problem also in developed countries, because we are planting our food in poor quality soil, and we are eating food that we think is good, and it has not all the vitamins, all the good things it should have.
Yeah.
I remember my father told me the other day that when he was a young boy, he usually took carrots from the soil, cleaned it and eat it, and they tasted very good. It's not like the carrots we eat now. And your solution is very important in underdeveloped countries, but I think it will become very important in developed countries too.
Yes, and those are the first book that we provide for everybody talks a lot about soil and how to grow your own compost and to add that to the soil and all of those kind of things. So that educates everybody. I mean, the level of people, a lot of people are becoming diabetics, and some of the reasons is because they're eating wrong food, but some of them is that the food they're eating isn't good enough food. So and that will be important and is important now, certainly in our country it is, because we've got all the opportunities to be as healthy, but there are still groups of people who aren't and who need to be encouraged to do just that, grow food, but look at the soil first.
Yes, I think that will be a very important theme right away.
Yes.
I don't know if someone else wants to make any question to Una, any other fellow from. So.
Can I?
Yes, Alfredo, of course.
Okay. Thank you, Una, and congratulations for your excellent presentation, as Ricardo already told you. This team is really very important, and your action is remarkable, because at the same time, you reach several goals of Rotary International. The question of the planet and of the sustainability and of natural resources, the children education, and also the basic question that is effectively the nutrition and the good nutrition of the children, that will be the men and women of tomorrow, and also of the adults. And it's nice to see and to feel your enthusiasm and your commitment with the project. I cannot speak in the name of my club, but what I can say only is that I compromise myself to present the project and to try also to follow Ricardo Henriques and the Rotary Club Dory Vogue International in order to try to support also with the same $100. As you know, for Europeans, in euros is less than 100. It's maybe 90, 85. So it's easier for us to do that. And thank you once again. This is not properly a question, because your presentation was remarkable. I have nothing to ask, because I think that I understood everything very well, and above all, I understand once again, and in the best way, the global dimension of intervention of the Rotary International. I wish you the best success of the future, and let us know from news every time you think that would be useful. And also, abraço para todos os companheiros também, foi prazer tê-los aqui, e parabéns mais uma vez ao Rotary Club de Orivoga e ao Ricardo e a todos os companheiros por esta iniciativa. Bye.
Obrigado, Alfredo.
Thank you.
So, Una, you are getting a lot of support from Portugal. You must come to visit Porto.
Oh, yes. And you will have to visit Melbourne and come over for the convention and be part of a workshop that we'll do at the convention.
Very well.
That would be lovely. Terrific.
When is the convention?
Next year is the 23 or 24.
I will look for it.
Sure. Yeah. It's Houston this year, so we must be next year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very well. If no one has any other question, I will try to motivate you, the other clubs, to make some contribution to this project. I think it's one of the most important projects that are in action today. And thank you, Una, for getting up earlier.
Oh, that's all right. I've been out. I have a greyhound that I walk in the morning, so I've done my walk before I came on, so that's easy.
Very well. That's a good example.
Yeah.
And we will be in contact with you.
Lovely.
And we will help you as we can, and we will try to implement your project in other places. So
That'd be terrific.
thank you very much, and thank you all the clubs that were here. Obrigado a todos os clubes que estiveram presentes, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think so.
Bye, Una.
Boa
Bye.
noite.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Boa noite, companheiro. Boa noite.
Bye. Boa
Bye.
noite.
Boa
Boa
noite.
noite.
Bye, bye.
Bye.
Tchau, Filipe. Até logo, Ricardo. Depois falamos amanhã, com calma.
Falamos com calma depois, marcamos uma reunião. Um abraço.
Um abraço.
Um abraço.